dear friends, you're in the Military Summary channel, and this video we're going to discuss the most important events that took place during the previous 12 hours. We have lots of very interesting updates, so let's start. And first we're going to talk about the most important update of probably December of 2025. We are going to talk about the meeting between the President of the Russian Federation, Vladimir Putin, and the Special Envoy of the United States of America, Steve Witkoff. This meeting took place yesterday on the 2nd of December of 2025, and this meeting lasts more or around 5 hours. It was the longest meeting between the United States of America and the Russian Federation on the matter of the peaceful settlement of the conflict in Ukraine. So first the meeting took place between Steve Witkoff and Special Representative Kirill Dmitriev. They were talking about different issues. Furthermore, we got report that Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi also arrived in Moscow. He has already held talks with the Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, and we know that China is not officially participating in the Ukrainian negotiations, but now we see that China wants to be first to know about the situation between Russia, the United States of America, and Ukraine. So the meeting between Kirill Dmitriev and Steve Witkoff started. Here we can see Trump's special envoy Steve Witkoff and the Russian president's special representative, half of the Russian direct investment fund, Kirill Dmitriev. They had lunch before talks with Vladimir Putin, and later the pro-Russian source and media published this video where we can see the Putin's motorcade arriving at the Kremlin. There the president would meet with the US Special Envoy Witkoff. And right after this video we start receiving updates that talks between Russia and the United States of America started. Once again, these talks last for more than 5 hours, and when the meeting ended, the special representative of the United States of America, envoy Steve Witkoff, arrived at the US Embassy. So most likely he came to the US Embassy with the purpose to have a call with the President of the United States of America, Donald Trump. Most likely Steve Witkoff provided him additional details about the situation with the negotiation process. And right after this meeting, Steve Witkoff departed Moscow and he fled to the United States of America. And here we will discuss another important detail in 5 minutes. So right after the meeting ended, the Russians made lots of very interesting statements. First, let's discuss this article that was published by the NBC News. Russia will not back down from 3 key points of the Ukraine peace plan, according to NBC News. Donbas territory transfer of the entire region, including areas controlled by the Ukraine armed forces, limitation of the Ukrainian armed forces strength, and significant reduction in the size of the Ukraine army, and the abandonment of key categories of weapons, recognition of the new Russian regions by America and Europe. So these are the key demands of the Russian Federation. So when the meeting ended, the special envoy Ushakov gave lots of very interesting statements. Putin's conversation with Witkoff and Karshner was useful and constructive. According to him, Russia and the United States have agreed that they will not disclose the essence of the negotiations. What else did the Russian presidential aide say about the negotiations? Putin said that Moscow may agree to something within the framework of the US plan for Ukraine, but something is causing criticism from the Russian side. Moscow has received 4 more documents in addition to Trump's original 28-point plan for a settlement in Ukraine. The meeting provided an opportunity to discuss ways to further resolve the Ukrainian crisis. The essence of the US settlement plan was discussed, not specific proposals. We discussed the prospects for achieving a long-term peaceful settlement in Ukraine. The parties expressed their readiness to continue working together to achieve a settlement in Ukraine. The representatives of the US president conveyed greetings and best wishes from Trump to Putin. Putin sent greetings to Trump through Witkoff and a number of political signals. The possibility of a meeting between Putin and Trump will depend on what progress is made towards a settlement. So another important detail detail, I would like to remind you that yesterday Zelensky came to Ireland, where he was waiting for Steve Witkoff. Zelensky was waiting for a meeting between him and Steve Witkoff, but later we got information that Steve Witkoff cancelled his meeting with Zelensky, and from the territory of the Russian Federation he fled to the United States of America. And saying the truth, this is a very, very bad signal for Zelensky, and we believe that in coming days he will get lots of problems from the United States of America, and probably more details about corruption scandal will be revealed by the anti-corruption agencies. And of course, the President of the United States of America also made lots of very important statements during the previous 12 hours. The United States is no longer financially involved in the war between Ukraine and Russia. US representatives in Russia are working to determine whether a settlement in Ukraine is possible. We hope for resolution to the conflict. The United States is no longer financially involved in the Ukrainian crisis, but is instead trying to end it, the US president added. So we see that black days, dark days are coming to Ukraine. Ukraine will lose one of the most strategical partners. We are talking about the United States of America. And now almost every single country in the world, with the exception of the European Union, will try to force Ukraine and Zelensky to accept Russia's demands. Now let's discuss the situation on the ground, and first let's talk about the Zaporozhye direction. During the previous 12 hours we received lots of important changes. First let's talk about the city of Stepnogorsk. As you can see, the map has been adjusted significantly. This is the situation by the end of the 1st of December of 2025, and this is the 3rd of November, 30th of November. This is the moment when the Russians began their major and final offensive operation with the purpose to establish complete control over the city of Stepnogorsk. By the end of the 2nd of December, the Russians answered the citadel of the city of Stepnogorsk in its northern part, and by the beginning of the 3rd of December, the Russians, as you can see, managed to improve their positions significantly. It seems that Russians managed to break through Ukrainian defense in the area of Stepnogorsk. The Russians answered the Zaporozhye operational space, and now it seems that Russians will try to establish complete control over the next months over these territories. They will try to capture villages to the north of the settlement of Mali-Sherbaki and to the northeast of the settlement of Stepnogorsk. We're talking about these villages. The Russians may use this dense network of the fortifications as a base before moving further, either in the northern direction and in the eastern direction towards the city of Orekhov from behind. So it seems the defense of Ukraine in this area collapsed completely. Now let's talk about the eastern Zaporozhye direction. During the previous 12 hours we received lots of changes. So this is the map by the end of the 2nd of December, and this is the map by the beginning of the 3rd of December. According to different mappers, the Russians managed to capture a significant number of territories, fields and tree lines on their way towards the settlement of Varvarovka. Now the Russians, according to different mappers, are just 2 kilometers away from the village of Varvarovka, and the Russians are shortening this distance every single minute. Furthermore, the Russians managed to establish complete control to the north of these water reservoirs in the northeastern part of the city of Gulyai-Polye. This is the situation between the dates. As you can see, the changes are significant. These changes were made based on this video published by pro-Ukrainian sources of the 142nd Infantry Brigade. Here we can see how Russians were moving through the fields, how Russians were capturing more territories under control, and how Ukrainians were attacking Russian soldiers with FPV drones. So based on the video, we have adjusted the map. The Russians are about to semi-encircle the city of Gulyai-Polye. At the same time, the Russians continue bombing and attacking the city of Gulyai-Polye with FABs, with aviation, with bombs, trying to force Ukrainians to fall back from this area. And as of the morning of the 3rd of December of 2025, currently we have too many different pro-Ukrainian sources that are telling us just about the same thing, that Ukraine will not be able to hold their positions in the city of Gulyai-Polye, and most likely in coming hours or maybe coming days, Ukrainians would be forced to fall back from this area completely, and this can lead to complete collapse of the eastern Zaporozhye direction, and Russians will continue offensive operation, and they can continue offensive operation in many directions, and of course Russians will attack the city of Orekhov from behind, also from the northeastern direction. Now let's move further and let's discuss the situation in the city of Pokrovsk. During the previous 12 hours, additional changes were recorded. As you can see, the Russians managed to capture the southeastern part completely of the settlement of Grishina. Of course, the most important thing is just yesterday, the Russians finished the battle for the city of Pokrovsk itself. I would like to remind you once again, this video was published by official Russian channels. Here we can see lots of Russians that were moving through the central part without any risk of being attacked by Ukrainian side, and the Russians raised the flag on the let's say on the town hall, in the area of the town hall, and the Ukrainians, if you remember, also used this video for their, let's say, for their purposes. They changed the video with AI, and that was very funny. And today we got report that the Russians continue offensive. Once again, they secured the southeastern part of the settlement of Grishina. Furthermore, the Russians improved their positions in the northern part of the settlement of Mirnograd, continued citing the news around 2,000 Ukrainian soldiers that are currently located on the territory of the city. And of course, the Russians continue offensive operation from the south. So the news is tightening, and the Russians are doing everything they can with the purpose to force the Ukrainians to surrender. But I would like to remind you that according to the Minister of Defense of the Russian Federation, Ukrainian soldiers reject any possibility and any idea of surrendering because of risk of being attacked even from the Ukrainian side. A bit further in the northeastern direction, the Russians continue their offensive operation in the Dobropolye direction. During the previous 12 hours, we received additional changes on the ground in the area of the settlements of Novoshacha. So, as we can see, the Russians are about to restore control over the territories they lost during the Ukrainian early autumn and late summer counter-offensive operation that took place between late August and early October. Now the Russians are about to recapture all territories they lost, and they're about to restore control over the line Shakhova-Novo-Shakhova. It seems that in coming days we're gonna see the battle for the settlement of Belitska. You know that the battle for Belitska is going to be a very important battle, because this is going to be, let's call it like, the first battle outside the city limits of the city of Pokrovsk, when Russians will start using the advantageous positions of the city of Pokrovsk itself. So every single city further to the north and to the northwest would be captured by the Russians, also of course because of probably complete superiority on the ground, but also due to the fact that the Russians control the city of Pokrovsk and have possibilities to concentrate units, to concentrate forces, to use FPV drones to establish different equipment that will help Russians to advance further and faster. As for the city of Konstantinovka, different sources made adjustments on the map. The Russians continue advancing. The Russians continue offensive in the southeastern part, but I would like to remind you that according to the commander of the group of forces south, the Russians by the morning of the 3rd of December of 2025 captured more than 30% of the city of Konstantinovka. And when talking about the map, we can say just about 10%, which means that the current situation, let's say the current map doesn't probably correlate with the real situation on the ground. So we believe that there are much more territories under control of the armed forces of the Russian Federation. Now let's talk about the city of Siversk, and during the previous 12 hours, probably the most important update came exactly from this area. So these are the changes on the ground between the dates. This is the end of the 2nd of December, and this is the beginning of the 3rd of December. As you can see, we have significant changes in the area of the settlement of Svetopokovska. This video was published by Russian sources, and here we can see how a Russian soldier was clearing a basement somewhere in the eastern part of the settlement of Svetopokovska. A Russian soldier, this Russian soldier most likely was suggesting the Ukrainians from the basement to surrender or something like this. Maybe they surrendered, and probably they surrendered. Yes, during this video we might see how in the final part of the second of the video several Ukrainians surrendered. Anyway, this video confirms and shows us that Russians are already here. And furthermore, this morning several pro-Russian sources stated that Ukrainians lost complete control over the eastern part of Svetopokovska, and that Ukrainians were forced forced to fall back towards the western part of the city. Now the Ukrainians are trying to organize defense, let's say, on the eastern side of the settlement of Riznikovka. So from this configuration and from this perspective, now we have no doubts that the city of Siversk is currently completely encircled by the armored force of the Russian Federation, which means that the Russians will intensify their offensive operation, and the city of Siversk may fall and will fall much faster than anyone can expect. As for the city of Kupiansk, during the previous 12 hours, several neutral mappers adjusted their maps showing Ukraine counter-offensive operation, and probably this is exactly what the President of Ukraine, Zelensky, was talking about during his meeting with the President of France, Macron. So as of now, we are not going to change the map because we understand that this most likely was something like a media counter-offensive operation with the purpose to have at least some strong cards with Macron during their talks that took place several days ago. So we believe that in coming days, Ukrainians would be forced to fall back from the city because they don't have possibilities to control these territories, and this media attack probably finishes its purposes. As for the Kharkiv region, during the previous 12 hours, the Russians continued their offensive operation. Currently, the clashes are taking place for the settlement of Vilcha, so the Ukrainians are leaving the Volchansk agglomeration, and the Ukrainians are moving further and deeper inside of the Kharkiv region, and the Russians are advancing right after them. So soon the battle for Bely Kolodys will begin. And that's it for the short video. Military Summary channel reminds to condemn any violence in the world. Thank you for your watching. Subscribe to my channel, put your likes, join my Patreon, and have a good day. Bye bye.